I'm Lisa Keeker, a longtime studio owner turned founder here at Studio Grow. Just a few years ago, I was building my studios the hard way. So I didn't have the team, the budget, or most importantly, the time. Now, if you speed up to today, I sold my wildly profitable studios in the mid 7 figures while serving my community in ways I could have only dreamed. Now I work with thousands of boutique fitness studio owners in over 40 countries, and I am so blessed to share some of the best tested strategies for our industry every single week. I created this podcast so you'd always have clear, actionable processes, tried and tested advice, and just some good old-fashioned inspiration. So you can take steps to grow your studio and turn it into a powerhouse empire just like I did. If you're a studio owner who's ready to impact your community and see major growth in the process, or you're prepping to become one, then you're in the right place. So let's kick this off, shall we?
Well, hello, everybody. It's Lisa Keeker. Welcome back to another episode of the Business of Boutique Fitness. I'm joined by Lisa Taylor, who has not only been an incredible studio owner, someone who exited her studios, one of our amazing consultants directing our bespoke program of this. Lisa is somebody who I think I have watched the natural cycles of her studio, like what happens every month, really effectively rolled out. Right now, we're looking at April. You're coming up to the month. What do you do? Now, when you look at April and you thought about this in your studios, what was your general gist of the month?
A leveling off, and I'm hoping that what April is becomes my new normal. So it's really busy in January and February, trying to keep that really busy feeling going through March. In April, I'm hoping that I've level set at a new normal. I understand there'll be a little bit of a dipping in the summer, but if I have an average month, I want April to be the representation of that.
That's a really, really wise thing of thinking about this is like, this is my new normal. This is what I can expect within my studio. So April becomes a benchmark. It becomes the standard for what you should expect, for what your team should expect. And that to me makes a lot of sense because I am looking to have grown significantly. I'm looking to maintain with a much steadier, probably a slightly lower level of growth, unless you're in a market that doesn't die off until July. If you're in a market that's like, hey, June is going to hold strong, I'm going to argue that April needs to be a month that you push as hard on as February and March. Know your market. That is going to be the critical thing of when you make some of these moves, when you start to dial them in. But no matter what, I think this is going to show you how well you have performed in Q1 is going to be very much what shapes April for yourself, for your team, and even for your clients.
Yeah, and can we keep the balance of a new normal level of busyness? Can the team perform at that level without there being overexhaustion or an inability to keep up? Or how do we just balance all the things and feel like we're really flowing in a rhythm?
I love that. I love that. You know, I'm sitting in the first month of the second quarter. I want to call this Q1 of Q1. Like in my head, that's what I keep saying over and over and over again. If I say that to any of y'all, I apologize. It is because that is what in my mind is running through this. Whenever I'm getting into the first month of a quarter, I'm doing a postmortem backwards. This is my chance to really reflect and say what truly worked in the quarter, what did not work, what are we going to change? Are we going to adapt some of the things that we built in March to roll out in Q2 of this? Now, 3 major areas that I am for sure going to look at deeply. The first is going to be my marketing. So I'm going to be looking at all of my paid advertising campaigns. I'm going to be reflecting on what offers performed exceptionally well. I'm going to be reflecting on what types of paid media or organic media performed exceptionally well. I might be looking at what were the hooks or the taglines or the ideas that really my clients were interested in. We know that those things are going to change and evolve, but there's some similarities on where we go. So I'm going to be doing a deep dive across my marketing and saying, what's really happened and shifted here? I think as much as we like to talk about what worked, it's also going to be really important to know what didn't work.
Yeah. We don't want to lose the learning because we were frantic in that period. We want to make sure we take some notes, preserve the experience so that next year we're ready to perform at the level we were at just this year and then go higher. And that doesn't happen if we're reinventing every year. So this postmortem is very important. So we get to this new normal that we have discussed, but that we are learning year over year and not having to recreate.
So I think
one of the biggest lessons.
I think that's really important. I think the other thing to recognize is this is one postmortem where you're going to have to take into account that you've been coming in most studios off a natural high in your marketing cycle. Like people are naturally coming through your door, typically the second half or the very end of January, all of February, and most of March. So I want you to make some adjustments to say, did I just hit goal and barely get there? Did I blow things out of the water? Like what was actually something that worked in my marketing and what was the seasonality of Q1 for me? And I think that's something that takes sometimes a strategist. I'm not going to lie. April was a time that if I was going to hire a strategist to really do this review with me, someone like what we have at Studio Grow on our marketing agency or something of the like, this was when I oftentimes did it because it was very telling about where my year was going to go and what were the biggest learnings and maybe unlearnings that we needed to do based on what Q1 really brought us. Because you're not going to see much more data than you're going to see in Q1. It's one of those times and seasons that you're just going to be loaded up with it.
I think I also want to put a little thumbtack in and say, if you didn't have your best ever Q1, because sometimes that happens, lots of snowstorms, your studio is closed, and you have some distance to make up in the springtime, it's important to know that as early as possible so that you can pop in a new challenge, a new high ticket offer, a new sale, something. We need to recalibrate the second quarter if the first didn't quite go as planned. Otherwise, that Q1 that was a little depressed is going to carry on for the whole year.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Great advice on this one. When it comes down to sales, I got to see my sales systems performing under stress. My processes ideally had so many people flowing through that I could see, did individuals of my team convert well? Did individuals of my team handle the pressure? Did my technology shine during this? Were there certain emails or text messages or WhatsApp messages that just didn't perform when put to scale on this one? This is going to be a chance that I'm going to really reset my marketing for a lot of the year based on this in terms of the sales process driven internal marketing, because my sales process has been stretched greatly on this. So suddenly I'm going to say, did my communication start a lot of conversations? If not, this is a time for me to go back in because that has impacted my sales process. I'm not going to lie that April was a month that I felt like I really knew whether my team on the sales side was going to stay with me or not. This was a month that I had to make some hard decisions, in truth, on this one of, hey, was somebody really able to handle the pressure or is this something that didn't work from this? For my team that was handling the pressure, this was a major month because they were getting some of their biggest commission checks. And because we did some quarterly bonuses, they were oftentimes coming off of major quarterly bonuses. So making sure you have that idea as you go in. And finally, retention postmortem. This should be your lowest quarter of attrition of the entire year. So attrition meaning how many people did we lose? Retention being how many people should we keep? This month, you should have kept more people than you will of any quarter in the year. If you saw retention was exceptionally high, you need to do a really big deep dive. This is a sign there's a cultural shift that's off. This is a sign that you might be struggling with.
If retention was low and attrition was high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did I say that backwards?
I think so. Retention low, attrition high.
Thank you, guys.
If you lost too many people in the busy time when it was probably the easy time.
Yep.
Something was off. And
Something is
absolutely,
wrong.
you're right about the culture.
Yeah.
If the attrition is high in that first quarter of the year, something went off in the culture.
Yeah. Now, once I get out of my postmortem, I'm going to take a peek at retail. Now, just as this happens to be one of these things, because March and April are big retail months for me, kind of like November, December, some of these things. If I'm sitting in April right now, I'm probably going to be finalizing my last minute buying for the remainder of the summer. If I'm going to be releasing a summer drop that's customized, I'm going to be working with my designer. I'm going to be working with my printer. I'm going to be working with who's going to be providing my shirts, my leggings, my hats, whatever I'm going to be putting this on, and I'm going to be dialing this in so I can ensure that those are going to be ready to be in my studio by the end of May. If you're having this done offshore, like truly overseas around the world, unless you're sitting in Australia and New Zealand, where you're going to get very quick delivery from a lot of our Asian markets that may be doing this, I'll be honest with you, this is probably going to be a drop that may have to happen in mid-June. We've got to take into account our delivery, all of these things. In the US, unfortunately, with some of our tariff situations, we are seeing a real slowdown of things coming in. We're seeing some delays. So you may be deciding, are you shipping via air transport or via ship? Those are decisions that may mean that you are actually doing this a little bit further back, depending on where you're at in the world and what delivery times look like. But for a lot of our markets around the world, the beginning of April is when I'm tidying that up. So sometime in June, I am ready to have that drop and have it ready to go. I've ideally done my sale in March. I've cleared everything out. I have everything re-merchandised. It's looking beautiful for the spring and everything ready to go. So my focus is going to be on looking ahead and continuing to really get that groundswell. April's a major buying month.
Major. It has to be fresh. It has to be clean. It doesn't have to be packed with a lot of things because it is kind of a bridge month. You might be looking even at lighter colors, more pastels before you get into the richer colors of summer, but absolutely cannot look like winter any longer, cannot be dusty and dirty, must look fresh, and there has to be new merchandise.
I love. When it comes to team, this is a month where, depending on your hiring cycle, but for an awful lot of our studios, we're going to be doing some type of all team onboarding. By all team onboarding, I mean all of our new team members we like to bring on at the start of each quarter happen to be where we were. You could choose a different month in the quarter. You could find out that this comes twice a year. But if I've projected my hiring right, I'm going to be doing some of my bigger team trainings. For me, that was always a weekend training, and I'm going to have a lot of people during the month of April that are going to be going through a 1 month onboarding process, likely part-time for the majority of people, but in some cases full-time as well. That to me was really important to know when that was going to happen in the year, how I was projecting forward. I feel like oftentimes in my studios, I did reset my new normal. You know, as you said, I reset my new normal coming off of this because I sold a lot of longer term memberships. I knew what the volume was going to look like. And I knew that that was going to require maybe some additional staff members to truly pull this together and moving in.
Well, you just made a really, really good point. With all that busyness, all that effort at selling that just has happened, we absolutely want to be selling some long-term memberships. That's going to help us keep that wave of up and down much more steady and let you plan.
I love that. When it comes to marketing, there's a few things I'm thinking ahead on. So the first is that between April and May, I really like to think about something that is going to drive a lot of referrals in. There's a few different ways you could do this, but something that is going to allow people to bring a friend. We oftentimes did this as a friends and family week. We might have done this as some type of week that celebrated members, so member celebration weeks, member appreciation weeks. But this became something where in April, I was really like, whoa, we want to carry a lot of people into May. People are still interested in buying. People are still interested in engaging. This is something that I love to see. Doing this is really simple. I think a lot of people complicate this a great deal. If I do a member appreciation week, I normally just do something very simple and special every single day of this. And the entire week, I'll be labeling people to bring friends. So when I did this, one day of the week, we would put out fresh fruits and bottles of water. We had a phenomenal coffee shop who, and this was oftentimes as a trade, this is something that they love seeing. They came in and set up a coffee bar for us, or a tea bar on this one. I worked with local massage therapists one day to come and set up chairs and do chair massages. There was literally a line out the door every day for those. These were the types of things that made the studio exciting. And of course, if you could bring friends in during that time, we would always have a special intro package for them to go into. That was a little different than our intro package. That was something that they came into, like one thing that they were like, whoa, what did I just walk into?
It's a lot of fun here. You know, funny enough, one of the most fun things we did on one of those days of the week, you'd be surprised, adults like to act like children. One day we did a candy table and you could fill up your bag. And then another day we did a sticker table. You could cover your water bottle. People loved it.
I I love that.
Everybody loves a sticker and a piece of candy.
Knowing all of this, like this is where you get to express yourself. If it's a friends and family week, man, you can be super simple on this. Like you could be simple where you can just say, hey, this is a week where you can bring as many friends or family as you want. You've got a special intro package. You'll need to make sure you've got the marketing set up so that you can cue into that they're going to have a special sequence that goes in and that your sales team knows how to have that conversation and make that conversion on to an intro package. Using
exactly
that
what I wanted to say
was what carried me into May. And I can't stress this enough. Like that was the big thing that like led to the wave of where this was. Now, from a personal perspective, you as the CEO, this was when I always took a single day leadership retreat. Like this was a month where I really got to say, wow, I am, 3.5 months into this. What really sat and worked for me? Like, did I lead well? Did I struggle in certain areas? Did I find myself working way too hard? Did I find myself working way too little? What is my new normal going to need to look like? And what am I going to look like coming into the summer months on where this was?
I think even the leadership team tends to rebalance at that retreat. Or if it's not a retreat, you're speaking just for yourself, I think a time to get the leadership team back together too. Because inevitably, they've probably jostled around their tasks and responsibilities when they were very busy and found, how the river will flow around the obstacles. They've probably found a new way of operating in some regards that wants to be acknowledged and systematized.
I love it. I love it. April, hopefully it's your new normal. Hopefully you're cresting even slightly above that new normal. You've dialed that in. I'm so excited to see what you do with this. Now, this is an episode you want to share. Share it with all of your fellow studio owners. Share it with people who are in fitness. Make sure that they are able to see what they need to do in April, because this should be a month that truly is setting the new normal for your studio.